Today we'll take a look at the Zhiyun B500. There's a lot of reviews out there, but in this video I want to dive into my unsponsored, unfiltered thoughts after using it for several months on set. Before we dive into the nuts and bolts, I want to do an unboxing of my second unit that just came in, so you know what comes straight out of the box. If you don't want to watch this part, I put timestamps in the description. Okay, so we're gonna start by just opening this up. This is what we're presented with straight out of the box. It's got a nice design on it. It's got some info over here and it's blank on this side. Just gonna open up this tape. Opening this up, we've got a nicely packed light. So we've got an IEC cable here. Some warranty information and some silica gel. We've got the unit and we've got a standard reflector dish. That's it. Okay, so here's everything that comes in the box. You've got your main unit, you've got an IEC cable, a reflector dish, a warranty card, 2 quick start guides, and another warranty card, and then some silica gel. So let's talk about what makes this light interesting. First of all, the size is impressive. You get 500 watts of bicolor light with no ballast, just a single IEC cable. Anyone who deals with power bricks or ballast regularly knows how nice that is, just a single cable. No more fumbling around or the ballast hanging off of the stand. This solves that by having that single IEC cable, which helps simplify things on set so much. The user interface is pretty straightforward. You've got a dim knob and a color knob. The menu system isn't anything fancy, but it gets the job done, and as long as you can remember which side is which, it's pretty quick to adjust. At 500 watts, this thing packs a lot of power, especially for the size. I've been doing a lot of interviews recently where we compete with Windows. I've got a 1200X and some other big fixtures, but with the ease of this system, I've actually been choosing to use it over some of my larger fixtures just because it saves room and helps streamline set. The bicolor range is from 2700 to 6500, which gives you plenty of flexibility. Though I find myself primarily using it between 3200 and 5600. Speaking of interviews, let me show you my most recent travel setup. Last month, my buddy Clark hired me and we went out of state and shot some interviews. The lighting setup was 2 B500s and a tube light. All of that fed in a few carry-on size bags, which we probably could have fit into one large checked bag. That would have been impossible a few years ago. Do you remember the Gen 1 300Ds? That was 2 power supplies, 3 cables, and a pretty large head. That takes up most of a suitcase. In the BTS, you may have noticed this strange light. It's something I've been referring to as the ghost light. It's where you take a fixture with a softbox and you tilt it downwards, and then you drape or you diaper a diffusion around it. That gives you a really nice, soft, billowing light that you can fit in a compact setup. It's obviously not as controllable as something you might do in a traditional setup, but it gives you a nice, soft light if you're needing to run compact. Now, I want to address something that I've seen in some other interviews, which is a magenta shift. In my particular copy of the unit, I haven't really noticed that. I've used it alongside aperture and my other lights, and it seems to match. But my theory is that, given the price of it, there may be some quality control variance between them. I just picked up this second unit, so we'll see how that goes over the next few months. So fan noise is something else that I've seen. Here's an example at 100% and 50%. And honestly, I just don't think that it's that bad. I've shot dozens of interviews with these lights and I've never had an issue, especially if you're using any kind of voice isolation in post. Let's look at some setups. For a lot of work, the 500 watt output is perfect because it gives you the opportunity to push through some heavier diffusion, which is great if you need a super soft light. Speaking of modifiers, I'm glad that they went with the Bowens mount on this. I've used modifiers from Aperture, Small Rig, and even some older Bowens mount modifiers. The mount is made out of metal, and it has a nice release mechanism. Nothing has slipped or fallen off like some of the cheaper lights I've used in the past. There's one modifier I want to specifically call out because I've fallen in love with it recently. That's the Lightbank Mito air tube. This combo has become a go-to setup for me. The B500 pairs incredibly well with it, and you get this gorgeous soft wrapping light with enough punch to really make it useful. At first I was concerned with the heat from the light because the Mito air tube is rated for 300 watts or so, but I've been running it for several months and haven't had any issues. It's essentially like having a 1 foot by 4 foot tube that's extremely lightweight, portable, and produces a super soft light. It's a combo worth checking out. Now let's talk about price. At the time of filming this video, the lights are around $600, which I think is a great value. These are actually replacing some of my Amaran 200 fixtures as they're dying off one by one. So I've given it some praises, but are there downsides? Of course. There's no DMX control, which is a deal breaker for some. The app control is basic at best, but it is reliable, which is nice. And if you're doing high-end studio work where color precision is absolutely critical, you would definitely want to test your light for that magenta shift that other people have noticed. But for the work that a lot of us do, commercial interviews, corporate content, event coverage, these lights are invaluable. One thing we have not talked about yet is durability. My first light has been in and out of checked luggage, bounced around on airlines, bounced around in the back of my truck, and so far it's holding up good. It's not built like a tank, there's a lot of plastic, but I think it'll hold up. The bottom line is if you're in the market for a powerful, portable, bicolor light, the B500 is worth considering. The combination of size, power, and price makes it pretty compelling. For documentary, tourism, weddings, events, it's hard to beat. The fact that I can fit 2 of these with a tube in a suitcase and still compete with the sun, that's remarkable. I think that's it for this review. If you've used one of these units, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, especially the color accuracy of your unit. And if this video helped you at all, please consider subscribing. It really helped the channel.